A week ago, the entire world agreed on one thing. Cristiano Ronaldo was finished. Done. A 41-year-old ghost chasing a tournament that had already moved on without him. He had just played in his country's opening game of the 2026 World Cup, and he had been invisible. Not one shot on target. Not one moment. The oldest outfield player ever to start a World Cup match, looking every single day of it. And the internet did what the internet does. Embarrassing. He's washed. He's only here to sell shirts. Send him back to Saudi Arabia. And the cruelest part? A lot of people had a point. He admitted it himself later. It was, in his own words, a dark week. It felt, he said, like he had already retired from football. And then, 4 days later, in front of the entire planet, in one half of football, the 41-year-old ghost rewrote the history of the World Cup and shoved every single word back down the world's throat. This is the most savage redemption the World Cup has seen in years. To understand how good the comeback was, you have to understand how bad it had gotten. Portugal opened their World Cup against the Democratic Republic of Congo. On paper, a routine start for one of the favorites. Instead, it was a nightmare. Portugal could only draw 1-1 against a team they were fully expected to beat. And the man who was supposed to lead them, the captain, the all-time leading scorer in the history of international football, did nothing. He didn't score, he didn't assist, he didn't manage a single shot on target across the entire match. He drifted, he gestured, he aged in real time, in 4K, in front of a global audience. And the numbers underneath it were brutal. That afternoon stretched his goal drought in major tournaments to 10 games. 10. The longest barren run of his entire international career, stretching all the way back to 2022. For most players, a 10-game dry spell is a slump. For Cristiano Ronaldo, a man whose whole identity is built on scoring goals relentlessly in every stadium on earth, it looked like the end. And everybody said so. What followed was a pile-on of a kind that only Ronaldo gets. Because he isn't just a player, he is a 25-year-long argument, and every time he stumbles, half the planet that has spent 2 decades insisting he's overrated grabs the microphone at once. Too old. Too slow. He's playing in the Saudi League because he can't cut it anywhere else. He's a passenger. Portugal would be better without him. It got so loud that his own teammates were dragged into it. In press conference after press conference, Portugal's players were asked not about their game plan, but about the old man up front. One of them snapped that the criticism was just noise, insignificant. Another admitted the squad had braced themselves, in advance, for the social media storm they knew was coming the second Ronaldo had a quiet game. Think about that. A team at a World Cup, preparing not just for their opponents, but for the abuse aimed at their own captain. That was the weather around Cristiano Ronaldo. And then he said something that stopped everyone cold. He said it felt like he had already retired. The greatest goal scorer the game has ever produced, in the middle of a World Cup, admitting that for a few dark days, it genuinely felt like it was over. And here is why it cut so deep. Of everything Cristiano Ronaldo has won, and he has won very nearly everything, there is one prize that has always, agonizingly, escaped him: the World Cup. 5 times he had gone. 5 times he had come home without it. And the record is more brutal than people realize. Across all of those World Cups, Ronaldo had never once scored a goal in a knockout match. He had never played in a final. The biggest stage in the entire sport, the one trophy that would end every argument forever, and it was the one place his magic always seemed to run out. And the last time had been the worst of all. At the 2022 World Cup, his own manager dropped him, benched for the knockout games. Forced to watch from the sidelines as Portugal were knocked out by Morocco, brought on too late to change anything, walking off the pitch in tears. That was supposed to be the ending. A slow, sad fade into retirement. But it wasn't always like that. Rewind to 2018, and Ronaldo produced one of the single greatest performances the tournament has ever seen. a hat trick against Spain. The last of them a ferocious late free kick that he bent into the very top corner to rescue a draw, making him the oldest man ever to score a World Cup hat trick. That was the Ronaldo the world remembered, the force of nature, the man who bent enormous games to his will with his bare hands. And now, 8 years on, that same man was being written off as a relic who couldn't even hit the target against Congo. So when Portugal lined up for their second game against Uzbekistan, it didn't feel like a fixture. It felt like a verdict. Start him and risk another humiliation in front of the whole world. Drop him and confirm everything the doubters were screaming. The manager started him, and what happened next, nobody saw coming. 6 minutes, that is all it took. 6 minutes into the game, João Cancelo whipped across into the Uzbekistan box, and there, arriving at the near post like it was 2014 all over again, was Cristiano Ronaldo. One clean, clinical, close-range finish. And just like that, the drought was over. The release was something to behold. All that noise, all that doubt, all that talk of retirement, gone, in one swing of his boot. He wheeled away, and the roar that followed wasn't just a celebration, it was vindication. But he was not finished. Because one goal silences the critics for a single night, Cristiano Ronaldo wanted to bury them completely. In the 39th minute, Portugal sliced Uzbekistan open again, and again the ball found number 7. Second goal, and with it, history. Because that strike made Cristiano Ronaldo the first footballer who has ever lived to score at 6 different World Cups. Read that one more time. 6. 2006, in Germany, as a kid with frosted tips. 2010. 2014. 2018. 2022. And now, 2026. 20 years, end to end. Nobody in the entire history of the sport had ever done it. Not Pelé, not Maradona, not Messi, only him. And there was still more. At 41 years and 138 days old, he became the second oldest goal scorer in the history of the World Cup, behind only the legendary Roger Milla, the Cameroon icon who lit up the 1994 World Cup at the age of 42. The man written off as too old just 4 days earlier was now hunting down age records that had stood for over 30 years. Around his 2 goals, the floodgates opened. Nuno Mendes drilled in a third. An Uzbek own goal made it 4, and Rafael Leao completed the rout late on. 5-0. A statement screamed at the top of Portugal's lungs. Ronaldo walked off as man of the match to a standing ovation in the same tournament that had buried him a week before. And then he spoke. No gloating, no "I told you so." Just a man who had walked through a dark week and come out the other side. He talked about how heavy it had felt, how close it had come to breaking him, and how the only answer he has ever known is the one he has been giving for 25 years, to let the football do the talking. His teammates, the very ones who had spent a week defending him in front of the cameras, mobbed him. The doubters went quiet. Because this is the thing people forget about Cristiano Ronaldo over and over and over again. Doubting him is not new. It is the oldest story in his entire career. They said he was too skinny at Manchester United, too selfish at Real Madrid, too old at Juventus, completely finished the moment he left Europe. And every single time, he has answered in the only language he has ever spoken, a number on a scoreboard. This was simply the latest chapter in the longest argument football has ever had. And that argument has a name attached to it, doesn't it? For 20 years, every Ronaldo low has been someone else's invitation to crown Lionel Messi and close the book for good. Messi has his World Cup, the one in 2022, the fairy tale ending, the trophy lifted over his head, the debate supposedly settled forever. Ronaldo has heard it 1,000 times, that he is the lesser of the two, that without a World Cup, his story has a hole in it that can never be filled. So when he was lying on the canvas this week, written off, droughted, and mocked, it wasn't just his form being buried, it was his entire legacy being read out loud like an obituary. which is exactly why a simple 2-goal burst against Uzbekistan landed like a thunderclap around the world. It was never really about 2 goals. It was the most stubborn man in the history of sport refusing, one more time, to let anyone else write the ending of his story. But here is what makes this story genuinely dangerous. For everyone else still left in the tournament, the redemption isn't even finished yet, because that one trophy, the World Cup, the single prize that has tormented him for 2 decades, is still sitting right there, unclaimed. Portugal's win sent them top of their group and into a final group match against Colombia in Miami with everything to play for. And if Ronaldo's Portugal come through that, the knockout rounds swing open. The exact stage where, for his entire career, his World Cup magic has run completely dry. A 41-year-old, suddenly red-hot, chasing the only prize that ever escaped him, at the worst possible moment for everybody else. The romantics are already daring to whisper the impossible dream, that the most decorated forward in the history of the game finally lifts the one trophy missing from his collection, at 41, in his 6th and surely final World Cup. It probably won't happen. The smart money says a younger, fresher team takes the crown. But 4 days ago, the smart money said he was finished too. So let this be the lesson, written one more time, in case anybody still hasn't learned it. You can question Cristiano Ronaldo's age, you can question his legs, his role, his stubbornness, his choice of league. You can pile on after one quiet game and call it the end. People have been doing precisely that for a quarter of a century. But the second you write the man off completely, the second you decide it is finally, truly over, he has a horrible habit of dragging himself off the floor, walking back out under the biggest lights on Earth, and reminding the entire planet of one simple fact. He decides when it's over, not you. And at the 2026 World Cup, the ghost the whole world had buried just looked all of us dead in the eye and started scoring again.